King's Temple Beth Shalom, Rabbi Boxt here again with our Parashat HaShavua. This week we are in Parashat Lecha from the book of Genesis, Genesis chapter 12, 1 through 17:27. Last week we met Abram and Sarai by name. This week we come to probably one of the most quoted lines in the entire Torah. Vayemor Adonai el Avram Lech Lecha. God said to Abram, to Abraham, go forth from your land, from your birthplace, from your father's house to the land that I will show you. And this is the beginning of the relationship between Abram and God. This is the beginning of the storyline, which basically opens up the entire rest of our history. Because up until Abram, it's not the Jewish people. Abram becomes the father of a great multitude of nations. The people number the stars in the heaven. That's us. So there's a famine, and Abram is told to leave his land. And there's a famine in the land, and Abram goes down to Egypt. And he takes his wife, and he says to her, Sarai, look, you're a beautiful woman. If we go down to Egypt and they think that we're married, they may kill me because they're so attracted to you and they want to take you for a wife. And so he asks her to lie and say that they're brother and sister. There's all kinds of issues and problems with that we don't have time to discuss in this short video, but no, that was not exactly the greatest thing for him to do. And what happens is the Pharaoh does try to take her for his wife, and then what happens? The Eternal struck Pharaoh and his household with severe afflictions because of this. Pharaoh summons Abram and says, what have you done to me? Why did you not tell me that she was your wife? And so he gets banished out of Egypt because of lying to the Pharaoh. So then we hear the story of the quarrel between Abram's group and Lot's group, and how they have to move in different sections because they're fighting amongst themselves. And then there's there's a war between a bunch of kings, and how Abram gets involved with that. We see that Abram then comes and is living by the oak trees of Mamre. And there's a treaty that's made with him. And then we have the king of Sodom coming to Abram and saying, let me have your people and keep the goods for yourself. And there's a bit of a discussion between the king of Sodom and Abram, and Abram goes away from Sodom, or Sodom, if you want to say it in Hebrew. And then God returns to Abram and says, have no fear. If you look up and gaze toward the heavens and you count the stars, if you can count them, you'll see that will be the amount of people that will follow in the multitude of generations that will come from you. God tells Abram that your ancestors are going to be a stranger, your descendants, are going to be a stranger in a land that they don't know. And they will be treated poorly, but then they will be taken out of that land. And in chapter 16 of this week's Torah portion, we see that Abram's wife Sarai is barren. She's not born him a child, so she gives Abram permission to go and copulate with Hagar, her slave. And of course, the child that is born is Ishmael. And eventually Sarai convinces Abram to kick Ishmael and Hagar out of their area. And then the Eternal comes to Sarai and says, I will take care of you and your family as well. And then we hear the story of God reminding Abram about the amount of of his seed, the generations that will come after him, which will be multiplied exceedingly. And this is I think, the most important part of this portion. God says, "No longer are you to be called Abram. Your name is to be Abraham, for I am making you the father of a multitude of nations." Literally, God takes the hey from God's name, and gives it to Abraham and gives it to Sarai, turning Abram to Abraham and Sarai to Sarah. The Torah portion ends with God telling Abraham that Sarah, his wife, is going to have a child, and Abraham falls on his face and says, "Can a child be born to a man of 100? Can 90-year-old Sarah bear a child?" Of course, Abraham does have a child. And when he's 99 years old, he circumcises himself and and Ishmael, his son. And then we meet, of course, the second son of Abraham, Isaac, in next week's Torah portion. So we see the covenant, the God promising to Abraham of all of that's going to happen, and God saying that in order for your portion of the covenant to come true, circumcision is the way that we show our part of the covenant. So that is this week's Torah portion. I wish you an early Shabbat Shalom.